When dealing with a distribution, we are often trying to infer information about that distribution by looking at a sample from the distribution. So we take a number of observations and we do some calculation with those observations, and we're trying to infer things about the distribution from that sample. So the examples we're going to do in this course all have to do with the average or mean of that distribution. And so we might, for example, look at a sample of 10 elements from a distribution and try to infer something about that distribution. Now, in this video, we're going to start with a distribution we know something about. So we're going to look in Excel at the uniform distribution. The uniform distribution between 0 and 1, and this basically chooses any number with equal probability between 0 and 1. Now it's pretty easy to think about the average if we chose a very, very, very large or an infinite number of observations from that distribution. The average observation would be a half. So we're going to look at a sample. I'll look at a sample of size 10. So let's just put the numbers 1 through 10 here. Out there? Okay, so there's the first 10 numbers, and I'm going to sample this distribution. So we're going to call rand, which samples, gives us a random number between 0 and 1 from the uniform distribution. And we're going to take the average of our sample. So our sample has 10 elements, the sample size is 10, and we take the average. This time the average was 0.24. If I recalculate my spreadsheet, it's 0.51, it's 0.62, it's 0.46, and so on. And we would expect if we did an infinite number, our sample size was infinity, or some really, really large number, the average should be pretty close to a half. Now, this is called a point estimate. This 0.3532 is called a point estimate. It's a point estimate for the true mean of the distribution. Again, like I said, the true mean of the distribution is a half. Now, this sample of size 10, we can think of as coming from a distribution, right? The sample of size 10 is one sample out of the distribution of all possible samples. Each of those samples has an average, and so we have a distribution of averages for our samples. This is called our sampling distribution. So for example, if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, now I have 10 samples from my distribution of samples, and I have 10 averages for those samples. And I can do many, many more. Let's copy this, and let's go to cell A1001. Let's paste it, copy it, and paste back. Now I have 1,000 samples from that sampling distribution. Each row, the average for each row represents a point estimate for the true mean of the distribution. And now I have lots and lots of those point estimates. Each distribution of size, or each sample of size 10 is drawn from what we call the sampling distribution. I can look at these averages, and let's create a histogram. So insert histogram. I'm just going to create an easy histogram here. And it turns out this distribution is pretty close to normal. And because it's pretty close to normal, we can do some relatively straightforward statistics on that. So that's going to be a topic for later videos. I hope that was helpful.